Hello everybody, Beard Reads Books here with another book review, and today's book review is on a book from 1988, The Time Police. This is the first book in the series of just 3 books. This is volume 1, Vanished. There are going to be a few potential spoilers in this video, so if you haven't read this book yet and you're planning to, just to let you know, yeah, there's potentially some spoilers in this vid, so just to let you know about that. Now, as you probably guessed from the title, it's about time travel, and it's about sort of people who police time travel and all the rest. It's set in the year 2249. That year is the present year for the sort of people in the story. And in this book, we're introduced to a character called Jackson Dubček. I think that's how you pronounce his surname. And he lives in America, and they've got what's called the Second Republic. And it's the Second Republic, it kind of looks after everybody and all the rest. And it's very much a state-controlled country. It's a republic, it's a state-controlled republic. So the state control everything, America's not like what it is now, sort of democracy. It's more the Second Republic in the mid 23rd century is more sort of like, I suppose you'd call it totalitarian, would you? I suppose that'd probably be the best way to describe how it's represented. But yeah, so Jackson Dubček, he's an ordinary citizen, works for the New Nineveh Library, and he gets hired by the time police, because obviously it's got time travel. The Second Republic's managed to get access to time travel, and because he's an interpreter, he gets hired by the time police to go back to the year 2183 to help them do some translating or somewhere and all the rest. And basically they leave him there. He gets dumped there, and as the story unfolds, it turns out that they've actually hired him for ulterior motives. They basically wanted to dump him in the past, because the time police have been received a list from their future, sort of further in the future, a list of people who are a threat to the Second Republic, and Jackson Dubček's at the top of this list. So he's a threat to the Second Republic, so they dump him in the past to try and get rid of him, so stop him from being a threat. Now, what the Second Republic is basically doing with their use of the time police and time travel, they're tinkering with the past, changing it in such a way so as to protect the Second Republic, ensure its safety and all the rest. They're basically changing the past to their own ends. And there's this underground organisation, not sure how you pronounce it, I think it was the Mnemonics, I think this underground organisation was called. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to preserve history the way it should be. They're trying to stop the time police from changing the past sort of for their own ends. So the mnemonics, I think that's what they're called. I've only just read the book as well. So the mnemonics, as far as the Second Republic are concerned, they're enemies of the Second Republic. They're dangerous to the Second Republic. So Second Republic are trying to get rid of them. And so Jackson Dubček, through the course of this story, he goes from being an ordinary citizen who was just minding his own business, just living his life. He goes from a ordinary law-abiding citizen keeping his head down to somebody who actually questions the whole Second Republic. You know, are they actually doing a good thing? And hating the Time Police because of the fact that they dumped him in 2183 and left him for dead. You know, and sort of at the end of this book, he's basically saying, oh, if he'd never met the Time Police, you know, and got involved in that, he'd have just carried on his life, just keeping his head down, just living his life as normal. But as a result of them recruiting him, supposedly to do interpreting, and then try to dump him in the past, he's like really sort of questioning the Second Republic and his motives and what he's doing and all the rest. And that's a bit of a paradox, really, because what you've got is the Second Republic, they've got a list of sort of people who are a threat to the Second Republic, and Jackson Dubjack's at the top of it, so they try and get rid of him. But by trying to get rid of him, they turn him against them. And if they'd done nothing, if they'd left him alone, he'd have probably carried on living his life sort of quite happily, and probably would not have ended up being a threat to them. You know, so by trying to eliminate a threat, they've created a threat. You know, so yeah, so a bit of a paradox there. Now, I first read this book sort of when I was a teenager, young teenager, sort of back in the early mid-90s, and I really fell in love with it. And obviously I've read the second two books as well, so I've read all three books in the series and fell in love with them at the time. And I was sort of reading it the last couple of days or so. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I got thinking, well, I think that's a lot of that is because of nostalgia, because I fell in love with it as a teenager. I think if I'd read it for the first time now, would I have fallen in love with it? I'm not sure. I mean, it's a very much a pulp sci-fi book. I'd probably say it's more, I think it'd probably be appreciated more by teens, young adults. You know, as a bit of an older adult, I'm a bit too old to say I'm a young adult now, but I mean, if I was reading it now for the first time, I'm not sure I'd fall in love with it. I'd probably read it and be like, it's all right, but nah, you know. As I was making notes as I was reading it, I did put down it's a bit like a McDonald's. It's quick bit of satisfaction. You enjoy it at the time, but afterwards you kind of quickly forget about it. It's in literature, as far as like in literature terms, it's not exactly high art. It's definitely pulp fiction, and yeah, don't think it would have won any awards or anything like that. You kind of read it, quick fix, get a bit of temporary satisfaction, but not the kind of thing you probably sort of linger on, if you know what I mean. No major long-term lingering satisfactions. So it's throughout this way of thinking of it, throughout this book, one of the notes I made was throughout this book, he visits a few different time periods, but he never sort of stays long in either time period. And one of the notes I made was part of me would have quite liked it if the different time periods had been given a bit more fleshing out, because like I said, he's set in the characters, their present day is in 2249. You don't really read anything about sort of the country at large in 2249. Here's Jackson Dubjack, the protagonist. He's initially taken back to 2183, and the Time Police dump him there. You don't really read anything much about sort of the world in general in 2183. It would have been that part of me would have quite liked it if these different time periods had been given a bit more of a flashing out, if you knew a bit more about the world in general in these different time periods. But then another part of me is thinking, to know about these different time periods, what the world's like in these different time periods, it's not necessary to the storyline. It'd be if the author had flashed it out. Oh yeah, the author Warren Norwood. Yeah, if the author had flashed the world's out a bit more in these time periods, he'd have been flashing it out for the sake of it. So it might have slowed it down a bit, the story. So I suppose it's more kind of what you want, really. If you're just straightforward time travel, then you're not going to be too fussed about the fact that you don't know about the world in general in the time periods. But if you're the kind of person you like a book that's a story that's got a bit of world building behind it, then to have the world in each different time period fleshed out a bit, that would have been quite nice to sort of see the world building in the different time periods. Does that make sense? Am I explaining myself very well? If I haven't put my thoughts across very clearly, drop me a comment and say so, and I'll try and express myself a bit more clearly in the comments. Yeah, so that was just one thing I sort of thought that might be a bit of an improvement on the story. If you got to know a little bit more about the world in each time period, sort of a little bit more of an idea of it, So to sum up a little bit, it's not a bad little story. It's not the best written story around. I suppose it's a good introduction to time travel stories. I'll definitely recommend it as a story for teens, young adults who want as an introduction to time travel stories, time travel novels. It's a good gateway book into that kind of genre, the whole time travel genre. It's a good gateway book, an introduction to the time travel genre. That's how I would describe it. But for something a bit more in depth, a bit more meaty, this falls down. This isn't an in-depth meaty novel. If that's the kind of thing you're looking for, this is going to leave you feeling disappointed. So look for somewhere else. But if you've never really sort of gone into the time travel genre before and you're looking for something a bit on the light side, something as a more introductory and that, then this is a kind of book. This would be a potentially good book to go for if you're looking for something just to introduce you into that kind of genre. Well, guys, thank you for watching. And if you've read the book, I'd love to know your thoughts on it. So drop me a comment and all the rest. Yeah. And like I said, well, if you haven't read it yet, and this has inspired you to read it, go out and read it, or if it's put you off from trying it, again, let me know in the comments and all that. But anyway, guys, I'm going to bring this review to an end. Thank you for watching. Look forward to seeing you in the next review. And in the meantime, take care, guys.